We're going to talk about a couple of different types of materials that we can use for his drawers. So right here on the table in front of me, I've got some bib beam stock, and you can find this at a local home center. What this is just local VG fir, vertical grain fir, and you can see it's pretty thick. This is about 2.5 inches thick, and what we've thought about for this is that we could actually rip this in half. It's called resawing, and then we can flay that open, and just a couple of these together would make a nice drawer. We could also go really thick, but my concern there is that it's going to just be a little bit too massive for what is actually needed. Another way to go is just to glue up some deck boards and then maybe plane them down. That would also work really well too. This is just a marking gauge, a marking wheel. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to plane it at the end. Just a little bit over an inch, so when we plane it, it'll probably come pretty close. Yeah, so what we'll do is we'll put it together wide first, and then we'll just cut it to the final width that we need.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So right now I've got 14 inches, so let's see what you're measuring here. Yeah, and I've got 14 3/4, so we've got plenty of room once that's glued up. Right, so this is Titebond 3. This is a waterproof glue. Titebond 1 and 2 are kind of an indoor glues. They're water resistant at the Titebond 2 level. Titebond 3 is literally waterproof, so you could use this on a cutting board that would be used in your kitchen and get wet all the time.
So you want it to cover the entire board.
I've got a little bit too much here, but a little squeeze out, it's not going to be bad. We can just clean that up. And I do it on all the surfaces. So I'm going to just flip this over here. Since that middle board is just a little bit wider, we're going to share some from this other board here. So we just want to make sure we have nice consistent coverage so that everywhere that's touching is covered by glue. And this glue will actually be stronger than the wood surrounding it. So that means that if this joint is going to break, the wood's going to break, not the glue line. Titebond 3, I believe, has a 10 to 15 minute window that you need to get everything glued up. So you got plenty of time to put it on. Then within 30 minutes or so, you can take it out of the clamps, and it just won't be ready for stress until probably 24 hours. It's water-based, it's not toxic, so no health concerns with this. And just water cleanup.
So if somebody doing this at home, what do you recommend? I mean, if you've got some clamps and, from Home Depot, can you just put something on a flat table, and what do you recommend on that? Yeah, if you've got a little workbench at home that has kind of a clamping feature, kind of the Workmates, those will work for this. And if you don't really have anything else, you can take a piece of plywood and get a couple of wedges and just make a stop and then just put those two wedges together and it'll kind of squeeze it together as well. Clamps make it nice though because they'll get a lot more pressure, and you want that in the joint. You want to bring that wood all together so that you don't have kind of what's called a loose joint where it's just barely glue touching, because that can make the joint a little bit more weak. We really want good pressure across it. And then even thinking about where you're clamping is important. Think about a cone that forms right off of this edge and forms diagonally out. You want those cones to overlap. So you'll notice if I come out 45 degrees from this cone here, I'll kind of approximate this with this pad. If I have another one here, you'll notice that those are overlapping. And that means we've got good pressure along this whole edge. Now when I clamp, I don't put a lot of pressure on any one clamp to start. I'll just get it into position and then bring it all up together, because we don't want to get drift between those pieces. We want them to maintain nice and level across. And then I just start easily applying clamp pressure more and more until I see a nice level of squeeze out forming. And here's a nice little pro tip. If you wait for about 15 minutes before you wipe this glue, it won't smear the glue into the grain and fill the grain. Instead, it'll just peel right off with a sharp edge, like a chisel or something else. Will just come right off the wood. Looks like right around 14 3/4, so we're going to go a little bit proud of that, so that we can then just plane it back by hand.
Now we could do this if we didn't want to use a big machine with something like this. Just a little hand drum sander.
Based on the fact that this is going to be, you know, kind of a kitchen table, it's going to be, you know, exposed to the elements a little bit. What would you recommend in terms of a finish on it?
Right, so think of finishes in two different categories. You have something that goes in the wood, and then something that would sit on top of it. Something that goes in the wood is like an oil-based finish, like a polyurethane oil or different types of Danish oils. Those will go into the wood, and you'll still be able to touch and feel the wood, and they're mildly protective, but not real great when it comes to the outdoors. You could also use something like an outdoor oil or a deck finish, but that's not going to be really something that's going to hold up real long term. We also have something that's like a film-based finish. So something that goes on top of the wood, think about that like as a lacquer or a clear coat. I can spray something clear on it, it'll be on top of the wood and protect it, but you have the problem of delamination and water can get under it and it can cause some problems. Well, there's a hybrid type of product that is actually oil-based, it's a solvent-based finish. Takes a little bit of time to finish it, about 24 hours between coats with 3 coats recommended. And it's a product either by Armor Seal or by Waterlux. Now, the Waterlux and Armor Seal products are neat because they go into the wood, they harden, and then they skein over. So you get kind of the best of both worlds. And it's not going to delaminate because it's really into the finish, deeply into the wood before it starts to skein over, and then it builds on itself with each successive layer. So I think a product like that's going to be phenomenal. In fact, Waterlux is used on $100,000 Chris Craft mahogany boats, and we're talking a below the waterline application, so it's going to hold up real well here. Oh, that actually fits really nice, just like that. I left it a little bit proud, and I'm glad I did. But now notice how it gets a little tight in there. Yeah. Perfect. Where we want to put those drawer slides. The easiest way on these when you're putting them back together is to have the drawer slides all the way in, and then that way you're only fighting one movement, and that's the front drawer slide. There it is in the back. And then now it's going to be a hard push to get to the back, but then once it's there, now it's an easy pull out. There you are.
Slick. Yeah, nice.